Welcome back to the Reading Corner here on Dreamers Defy. This is the area of the channel where we go through a novel chapter by chapter, kind of in an audiobook form. And right now we are reading Vengeful by AJ Parnell. We are up to chapter 17, pretty much dead set in the middle of the book. If this is your first time here, I invite you to go back to the introduction video. Start there and work your way back up to us, and we'll wait for you. It's okay. And if you just want to jump in, that's okay too. But at the intro, there is a disclaimer. There are some sensitive topics to this story, and you do need to be aware. But if you've been here all along, you're probably saying, Blake, get on with it. Let's get to chapter 17. So we shall right now. Vengeful, chapter 17. One guy's ghost is another girl's nightmare. Using the flickering light of the campfire, Abigail searched the clearing for any sign of Luke. When he had walked off into the desert, she was certain that Luke was going to get back into his truck, drive off, and leave her here to die. Instead, he walked off into the void, mumbling incoherent words to himself without a backward glance, and had yet to return. What the hell is going on in that broken intellect of his? Watching him run himself ragged, driving those huge stakes into the rock-hard earth, then lugging all that stupid salt around to create strange circles around her, had been entertaining at first. However, the longer it went on, the more she had begun to believe that the man she had pledged to love had indeed lost his mind. Every time she reached out to him, started to convince him to let her go, he would start chasing invisible butterflies and talking to himself. When she got free, she would make damn sure that Luke got locked up at the enchantment facility. Once there, Abigail would enjoy watching him safely behind the heavy door and small viewing window, drinking a nice cup of tea as Luke finished his spiraling descent into madness. Turning, Abigail looked back into the obscure confines of her cell. As nice as those things were to imagine, for the moment, she had to admit that they were far out of her reach. Lips curling back into a snarl, Abigail glared at the infuriating tarp that continued to slap against the metal post in the dirt-ridden breeze. Ever since the sun had gone down, the wind had tugged, blown, and pulled at the edges of the bedraggled tarp, causing it to clang over and over and over again, hammering against the metal post like a child beating on a pan with a wooden spoon. Spotting her discarded sandwich, Abigail's stomach growled. As much as she hated to eat that damn thing, she knew that she'd better finish it and drink what was left of her water. She needed to keep her strength up if she wanted to get the hell out of here. Resolute, Abigail bent over, snatched up the food along with a half-filled bottle, and screamed when she spotted a huge scorpion on the sandwich. Dropping it, she stomped the scorpion to pieces, then retrieved the sandwich and plopped down. Scanning the empty campsite, Abigail sipped her water and took a moment to reason. Luke would not have ventured too far off, especially since he had not taken a flashlight or any other means of light to navigate through the terrain. Abigail's lips curved into a knowing smile. Her captor was no doubt within hearing distance of her little corner of the world, which meant she still had the ability to manipulate him. Smugly, Abigail dusted off her bottle of water and cooed, "Luke, thank you for giving me something to eat, to drink. I know you didn't have to, and I want you to know that I appreciate you taking care of me." Taking a tentative bite, Abigail fought back the urge to vomit as she began chewing the warm food. Abigail swallowed it as she tried in vain to hide the look of disgust marring her face. "I better not get food poisoning from this crap, or I'll repay that tenfold when I have him locked up." Forcing a smile, Abigail called out into the void, confident Luke was listening. "Remember that hideaway you found for us last year? The one where I would meet you after work? I loved that place. We spent hours just talking, dreaming about our future and all that it held for us. Abigail took another swig of her hot water, resisted the urge to gag, and continued her siren song. It was so wonderful, so peaceful. You should know that I never wanted those precious moments to end. Imagining Luke out there in the dark, his pained smile wavering as he drew his knees up to his chest, tears pooling within his troubled eyes as his resolve began to break, brought a sick sense of satisfaction to Abigail. We made love for the first time that night, remember? Confident, Abigail relaxed against the wire mesh of the cage. From the corner of her eye, Abigail spotted a shadow creep up behind her, its stealthy form just outside the metal barrier, partially hidden by the tarp. Abigail's smug smile widened. It was working. She was luring Luke just like a fish on a hook. You held me so close that night, so tight within the safety of your arms that I knew, as long as I was with you, I would be all right, no matter what. Soft footfall sounded as he drew near, then stopped close behind her. Remember that night, Luke? Outside the cage, through the small holes in the wire, fingers reached through and began to stroke Abigail's thick hair. Leaning back into the caress, Abigail smiled as she looked up, her mind rejoicing in her small victory, then felt to skip a beat as she peered into the soulless black eyes of a young girl. Lips curling back into a snarl, the child's hand wound a handful of Abigail's hair into her fist, then yanked her back. Abigail screamed as she wrenched into the wire mesh, her head and face cut open by a sharp protruding wire that had come loose from the others. In a panic, Abigail clawed at the child's hand, but got caught on the wire instead, cutting several grooves into her palms and fingers. Struggling, she pulled herself free, leaving chunks of her hair behind as she tumbled backwards. Scrambling on hands and knees, Abigail rushed to the center of her cell, trying to escape. Heart pounding, she watched as the tarp began to whip wildly about the cage. A child's menacing laugh echoed in the night as the sound of a small, hurried footsteps raced around the cage, shifting back and forth, around and back again in a frantic, irrational manner. Then, just as suddenly as it began, everything stopped and an eerie silence descended. Cautious, Abigail looked back to the front of the cage and screamed when she came face to face with Izzy. The black eyes shot through with busted vessels as the child floated in the air before her. You're going to die, and I'm glad. In a flash, Izzy's nails raked down Abigail's cheek, leaving 5 long scratches. Izzy disappeared into a wisp of dust, laughing. Rattled, Abigail pushed her hair away from her face, smearing blood across her cheek from various small scratches. Fear turned to anger as Abigail spotted the crimson stains on her hand. You said you didn't want to hurt me, Luke. Voice heavy and sad, Luke called from somewhere just outside the flickering light of the fire. I don't. Then what the hell do you call this? Getting to her feet, Abigail held her bloody hand out before her. In response, Izzy's doll slammed into the front of the cage, startling Abigail. Eyes wide, Abigail watched as the toy, as if in slow motion, slid down the chinks of the wall, inch by painful inch, the material snagging and tearing on bent wire before being thrown face down in the dirt before her. Calling out, Luke answered, It wasn't me, Abby. Attention fixed on the doll, Abigail inched forward. That doll was hers. How dare he treat it like that? Abigail got to her knees, scanning the clearing for any signs of Luke. Finding none, she carefully reached through the opening at the bottom of the wire and stole the doll. Abigail carefully dusted off the doll and began admiring its dark form, as a dark form began to rise up behind her. Fear clawed its way up Abigail's spine as the quiet was broken by the sound of a seething child. Hands and body shaking, Abigail turned slowly, afraid of what she might find. Seeing nothing, Abigail drew in a long, relieved breath, allowing her rigid body to relax. Hugging the doll to her chest, Abigail screamed as she was yanked back by her hair. She watched in horror as long, thin slashes appeared down her arm. The doll was ripped out of her clenched hands. In disbelief, Abigail saw the doll slide across the dirt floor before being yanked through an opening at the base of the frame and glide, as if by magic, back within the broken salt ring. What the hell? Closing both eyes, Abigail shut out the world and focused on her breathing. This isn't real. None of it is. Rattled, Abigail opened her eyes and looked down at the scratches on her arm. I'm hallucinating, imagining things that are making me hurt myself. Abigail scrambled to her feet, turned in a wide circle, then spotted the discarded water bottle. Snarling, Abigail hurried over to it, snatched it up. What did you put in this damn thing? Growling, Abigail crushed the plastic in her hand, then threw the empty container against the wall. Answer me, Luke. What the hell did you give me? Breathing heavy, Abigail turned in a circle, her eyes searching the darkness. A gust of wind was her only reply. Once again, the evening breeze picked up, returning the tarp back to its persistent, irritating beating against the metal post. Heart pounding, Abigail cast a cautious look back over the dirt mound, concealing her work. Whatever he gave her was apparently very powerful. She had better get the hell out of here before something else triggered an episode. Or worse yet, Luke decided to come back and finish her himself. Rushing over to the area, Abigail fell to her knees and hurriedly began raking the dirt back and away from the bent and curled metal. Fearful, Abigail cast a quick peek behind her as she took hold of the wire and began tugging it. Feeling the chain fence give a little, she turned back and gasped when she found herself face to face with Luke. Shaking his head, Luke looked down at the pitiful work. It won't do you any good. Furious, Abigail slammed her dirty hands against the fence, causing Luke to shift back on his heels to avoid being struck in the face. Damn it, Luke! Pushing her tangled hair away from her face, she looked at him. Was it the food, the water, or both? Luke fixed her with that same sad, stupid gaze. There was nothing in your... Bullshit. I'm seeing things, doing things, hurting myself. I know you drugged me, so stop denying it. Furious, Abigail slapped the dirt before her, sending clods of earth flying onto Luke. Luke calmly dusted off his clothes. Everything you're experiencing, everything that's happening to you, it's real, Abby. All of it. Abigail laughed. Are you really that damn stupid? Falling back on her butt, Abigail glared at him. So what happens now if I don't manage to kill myself running around this little playpen of yours? Are you going to join your little imaginary friends, come in here and help them finish the job? Ashamed, Luke turned his attention to the dying fire. I told you, I don't want to hurt you. I have never wanted to. But they do. Clamping down on her rising hysteria, Abigail screeched. Damn it, Luke. How many times do I have to tell you? There is nobody else here. Jaw clenched, Luke bent the twisted wire back into place, shoved it back into the loose dirt, then brushed the soil back over the exposed metal to cover it. There's nowhere you can go where they won't find you. Luke got to his feet, his eyes fixed on the broken salt ring. Believe me, I've tried. Out of patience, Abigail shot to her feet. There are no ghosts, there are no demons. This is all you, Luke. This is a manifestation of your obsession with me, an excuse for you to punish me for hurting you. Abigail pushed her disheveled hair away from her face and squared off with Luke. She had to get control of this situation and get control fast. Don't you see? You're the one hurting me. You're the one doing all of this. It is you and no one else. Abigail began to wonder if she had underestimated Luke's capacity for violence. Luke got calmly to his feet as Abigail drew in a deep breath. Obviously, her outburst was not getting her anywhere with Luke. Time to change tactics. Okay, all right. For the sake of argument, let's proceed as if you are, in fact, seeing the ghosts of my former patients. Luke growled. I am seeing them. Fine. Forcing a timid smile, Abigail motioned to the area around her. I know what you've said. These spirits want to teach me a lesson. They want to make me suffer for the wrong that I supposedly did to them. Abigail watched as Luke went over to the doll and knelt down before it. Luke seemed calmer, which was a good thing because she needed to de-escalate the situation and fast. But why steal my things? Luke gently picked up Izzy's doll. You mean their things. Cupping her hands before her, Abigail apologized. Sorry, yes. Why take their things? Luke studied the toy. These things you kept tethered them, trapped them on this side of the veil, where they can't move on. Eyes going to a spot a few feet in front of him, Luke cocked his head. But thankfully, I have possession of them now. Dusting off the doll, Luke got to his feet. And you having those things helps them how? Offering his hand as if to an invisible child, Luke answered, I'm helping them increase their power. A nervous laugh escaped Abigail. She cleared her throat and continued, To move on? Luke cut an irritated look her way. Not exactly. Apprehension grew in Abigail's gut. Then what? Hand closing around empty air, Luke smiled down at the space beside him. To settle an old score. Taken aback, Abigail watched as Luke's hand closed gently around air as he smiled down at the empty space beside him. And that is the end of chapter 17. Ooh, pretty good with the ghost, huh? We'll get to chapter 18 real soon. And we're going to hear from some more ghosts, I do believe, as we continue reading Vengeful by AJ Parnell. Again, as I always invite you to do, go down into the comments. Tell me what you think about the book so far. Tell me your thoughts. Tell me your theories. I'd like to know. We're going to get to chapter 18 real soon here on Dreamers Defy.